I was not a huge fan of Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker, but the Rotten Tomatoes audience score for the final Star Wars sequel trilogy movie has me wondering if I'm in the wrong. The sequel trilogy very quickly became controversial among Star Wars movies and TV shows, and many still consider them some of Star Wars' worst movies. The Rise of Skywalker easily received the most backlash of all three movies, though, in large part because of unpopular plot twists, such as the minimally explained return of Emperor Palpatine. There were also a number of complaints about The Rise of Skywalker that I did not agree with, including Rey choosing the last name Skywalker, which I found to be perfect payback for Anakin Skywalker. Admittedly, though, The Rise of Skywalker is my least favorite movie of the 9 Skywalker saga movies. While I've always felt confident in that stance, though, the shockingly high Rotten Tomatoes audience score for The Rise of Skywalker is making me question if I'm missing something. Why I disliked Rise of Skywalker. My grievances go beyond the Palpatine twist. Like many, if not most, viewers, I was not pleased with the twist that it was really Palpatine behind the events of the sequel trilogy after all. This seemed like a last-ditch effort to make the sequels work after the trilogy exchanging hands multiple times left the narrative feeling jumbled and disconnected. Ultimately, rather than bringing the movies together, this served only to undermine what had come before and reuse old ideas rather than introduce something innovative. Having said that, my issues with The Rise of Skywalker go beyond just the revelation that Palpatine had been resurrected. One of the biggest grievances I had with the movie was the handling of Ben Solo. Kylo Ren's story arc. Kylo Ren was, in my view, the most interesting new character in the sequel movies, not only because he was a Skywalker by blood but also because I found him compelling as a villain, especially with the added context of the canon Star Wars comic book The Rise of Kylo Ren, written by Charles Soule. I was also prepared for The Rise of Skywalker to be largely his story, which the title suggested would be the case. This made it all the more disappointing when Ben not only died but also died without anyone appearing for him as a Force ghost, yet Luke and Leia both appeared on Tatooine to watch Rey bury Leia and Anakin's lightsabers. I would almost have found this excusable had the focus been divided among other characters as well, but that wasn't the case. Poe Dameron, Finn, and Rose Tico were all sidelined in The Rise of Skywalker. A much larger concern I had with The Rise of Skywalker was how it implemented Carrie Fisher. Fisher tragically passed before The Rise of Skywalker, and that evidently left Star Wars stuck in terms of the story they could tell in the final sequel trilogy movie. As a workaround, they incorporated unused footage they had from the previous movies, in addition to some visual and story tricks. It felt morbid and, to me, a bit ethically ambiguous to use Fisher in this way, and I still feel unsettled when I watch The Rise of Skywalker and see her on screen. Rotten Tomatoes audience score for Rise of Skywalker is so much better than I expected. The Rise of Skywalker's audience score is currently higher than all the prequels and other sequels. Finn, Chewie, Rey, 3PO, and Poe in the desert in Star Wars. Despite my own grievances and the many complaints The Rise of Skywalker received from viewers, The Rise of Skywalker's audience score on Rotten Tomatoes is shockingly high. Currently, The Rise of Skywalker has an 86% audience score on the site. This bewilderingly places The Rise of Skywalker higher than all 3 prequel movies and the other 2 sequel trilogy movies in terms of audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. This fairly high score for The Rise of Skywalker would come as enough of a surprise on its own, but the fact that The Rise of Skywalker rivals Rogue One, a Star Wars story, a very popular Star Wars movie, in terms of audience score is truly surprising. While I'm not going to entirely change my opinion of the movie based on its Rotten Tomatoes score, this revelation has caused me to re-evaluate both my understanding of the movie's reception and whether I'm being overly critical. Am I being too harsh on Rise of Skywalker? Audiences are clearly seeing something promising in The Rise of Skywalker. Daisy Ridley as Rey Skywalker duels Adam Driver as Kylo Ren in Star Wars Rise of Skywalker. While I do think many of the aforementioned issues in The Rise of Skywalker hold true, it is interesting to see what positive reviews of the movie entail. Among the 5-star reviews, audiences pointed to the relationship between Kylo Ren, Ben Solo and Rey, the return of the original 3 heroes, the action, and the plot twists. Interestingly, these are among the things many viewers complained about. Notably, many did enjoy the relationship Kylo Ren and Rey had, leading to an entire section of the fanbase referring to themselves as Reylos. There were compelling aspects of their dynamic, including the introduction of the Force Dyad, a brand new concept in Star Wars that continues to have plenty of potential. Whether the Reylos are enough to entirely explain this Rotten Tomatoes score is dubious, though. It's also worth highlighting that there are plenty of people who will always love what Star Wars puts out, although again, given that the Rise of Skywalker score is high even compared to other Star Wars movies, that doesn't quite explain this audience score. Truthfully, I'm still a bit flummoxed by the revelation that The Rise of Skywalker is the second highest rated Star Wars movie outside the original trilogy in terms of Rotten Tomatoes audience score. While I maintain my opinion of Star Wars, The Rise of Skywalker, this shocking score does suggest the Star Wars movie deserves another look.